everybody, Jimmy Kane here again, Hunt's Annex Studios with Musician to Musician. But tonight we have Jennifer Yonts, who is actually an album cover artist, and we're going to switch topic a little tonight, and I want Jen to hopefully give us some insights into what bands have to face when they get to a stage in their career where they require the services of a graphic artist, whether it's independent or in-house by the label, and hopefully illuminate the students on what that process is like and a little bit about what the career is like from her end working with artists. If you're not familiar with Jen's background, Jen, of course, is the artist who created the artwork for Quiet Riot's final album, Rehab. She did the cover art. She did the book jacket for Metal Mayhem and Madness by Michael Flaherty. And then, of course, she did Frankie Banali and Friends album 24/7 365, a tribute to Led Zeppelin. And very nice of her, she actually did also the Hunt's Annex Studios Randy Rhoads Flying V guitar logo for our little music school. Jen, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good, Jimmy.
Great. Nice to speak with you again.
It's nice to speak to you too.
Okay. Jen, would you give everybody a little background on your beginning interest in art?
Okay,
and then
sure.
how the art interest began to relate to rock and roll?
Okay. It's actually always kind of went hand in hand for me, because I've always been interested in art from like a very early age. I would sit and draw and doodle all the time, and I would draw up all the paper in the house, and I can remember my mom giving me like a whole roll of wallpaper, and I drew the back of that wallpaper until that was gone. So, and I have 3 older brothers who were all married and out of the house by the time I was 6, and they had left behind all these great albums. And Santa had brought me a record player for Christmas. So that was what I did. I listened to Kiss and Simon and Garfunkel and the Beatles, and I drew and finger painted and colored. So I think music and art just always went hand in hand for me, and I still listen to music when I'm working.
Well, they do. They do. I would agree with you 100%. What's fascinating to me about the connection between music and art is, you know, when we look at all these British bands from the late 60s and coming into the 1970s, you know, how many of those bands coming out of England were in actually art school together?
Yeah,
you know, fellows from Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, that kind of thing. Jen, what kind of training did you undertake, and what were some of like your early attempts at trying to do commercial work and actually make a living doing this?
Okay. As far as my early attempts, there weren't really that many. You know, I just kind of fell into it. I was running the Quiet Riot fan site with a friend of mine, and the band actually thought that our site was better than their official website at the time. And so it wasn't long until they asked us to go official, and then that kind of led to the Frankie Banali website and eventually to CD Artwork. So it was kind of a big deal for me because in the beginning I had taught myself some Photoshop and learned a little bit on my own how to design a website, and so here was my favorite band loving my stuff, so it was pretty exciting, and I thought, you know, I must be pretty good at this. And then that's when I decided to do something for myself that I always wanted to do, and I went to school and got a degree in design.
So what kind of school are we talking about, Jen?
I actually took online classes through the Art Institute.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. You mean that one that they used to show that commercial, if you can draw the Mickey Mouse, they'll put you in the course, that thing?
You know, I think that is the one.
That's incredible. That's, you know, it's a funny thing. A lot of famous artists that were working in the 70s, a lot of those fellas actually started the same way with a correspondence course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. But the thing that I find really fascinating, this is not like you went out, went to art school for 4 years, put a portfolio together and started banging on doors. It actually, the career came to you just because you were really believing in what you're doing and devoted to the band that you were into.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened, Jimmy.
Wow, that's incredible, because that's like what a beautiful compliment from, you know, people that you really respect.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was meant to be. Well, let's talk, Jen. Let's talk a little bit about the specific artwork.
Okay.
Can we talk about the Rehab album cover?
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about how when they approached you to do that?
Okay.
How that all goes down, so that the students can understand. Both for any art students that are listening, but also for the student musicians. Can you kind of walk us through the process using that as an example?
Okay, I can. Actually, how it went with Rehab and what probably stands out to me the most about doing the Rehab cover was that I nailed it on the first try, which is a rare thing. Frankie had sent me an email and he said, Kevin and I are talking about our next studio CD, and we're going to call it Rehab. And he said, really the only thing we know we want is that we want the R to be like the prescription symbol with the extended arm that comes down with the X at the end. And he said, just take that idea and play with it a little bit and show me what you can come up with. So I did, and then pretty much what you're looking at was exactly my first try.
Wow.
We tweaked it a little bit here and there. I think the first time Quiet Riot was written in white letters or something, but that's it, pretty much.
Wow. So I notice in the R, there's the mask from the original first,
yeah.
With 1983 Quiet Riot Mental Health album.
Yeah.
Now that is not your art on that 83 album,
no.
The multi-platinum album. But the thing is, you had to recreate a bit of that art to work it into the Rehab, yeah?
Yeah. They knew that they wanted the mask in the design because I think in a way it tied in with mental health. Sure. Yeah, because it's mental health and then rehab. So yeah, they wanted to have the mask in there somewhere. So that's what we decided to do with that part.
Well, that's fantastic, and that's all there was to it. I mean, there was no big list of constraints and so on and so forth. It was just take a shot at it, and you knocked it over the fence.
I nailed it the first time.
That's incredible. Jen, when you're constructing the art, now you use a computer base, yeah? Yeah. Now, what kind of programs do you work with?
I work mostly with the Adobe Suite.
Adobe Suite, okay.
Yeah. Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign.
Okay, wow. And you had to train yourself to use all those programs?
I did some with Photoshop,
right.
And then once I got into school, we had to learn how to use the different programs and how they work with each other. A lot of times I will use several different design programs for one project, so.
I got to tell you a funny story. There's a little tidbit on, Led Zeppelin 2. The Brown Bomber album. Uh-huh. But apparently, as the story goes, when it came time to do that album cover, Jimmy Page just told them, come up with something interesting, and walked out. That's a little like yours, though, Yeah. And it's amazing.